Coming to you from the studios at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, it's the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Rock and roll Chicago, rock and roll Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock the city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best year ever.
Hey everybody, it's Ray the Roadie
And this is Mike Matoya.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm doing real well. Happy to be back in the studio.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, after being gone for a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks, yep. Hopefully we'll be here more often.
Yeah.
So what's on tap for this week? You scrounged somebody up from somewhere.
Yeah, we've got the Fabulous Kings going to be here any minute, and we're going to find out who those guys are.
Yeah, what kind of music?
Basic, Chicago style rhythm and blues.
Okay.
I think people that go out and see these guys are going to be pleasantly surprised by what they can do. It's, very traditional blues with a little bit of a modern spin, and you can tell these guys are some seasoned musicians.
Sounds good. Why don't we give them a listen? Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Mike Matoya. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We're here at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 Studios with another podcast for you. Who do you got first this week, Mike?
We have the Fabulous Kings. Let me tell you, we have some blues royalty sitting in front of us here this evening. All right, maybe not blues royalty, maybe fantastic pedigree. Let's call it a fantastic pedigree of blues. Right?
Are they like dogs?
Well, then it sounds right.
That could be.
Might be barking up the wrong tree.
Right.
So who's here with us?
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
My name is Victor Sandri.
I am George May.
Billy Rider.
Billy Rider. And Billy, what do you play in the band?
Well, that could be a matter of opinion.
All right.
Harmonica and vocals.
Excellent. George?
I'm on drums.
Excellent.
I'm guitar player and vocals.
And vocalist. Excellent.
And the missing member is John Clark, who plays bass.
All right. Oh, yeah, that's right. John isn't here. That's right.
Shy.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. I think it would be really interesting for everybody to hear exactly how you guys all came about, because you have a very interesting history. And I think everybody would like to hear how the Fabulous Kings came to be a band.
Well, the Fabulous Kings came to be a band because John, the bass player, and I and George were playing with Billy King in the Billy King Band. He asked us to join him. We were in our own band at the time. He asked us to join him, and we said yes. And it was Billy King and George and John and a saxophone player named Joe LeClaire, who was really good, and myself. And we started doing music that's very similar to the music that we're doing now. In fact, we still do some of Billy's songs.
Right.
And unfortunately, about a year ago, last December, Billy passed away from a rare form of fibrosis. So, and we continued on, and we met Billy number 2 here at a jam. And John, who never forgets anything. I mean, that man never forgets anything. We're sitting there, and we're, at this open jam, and John goes, "Isn't that the guy that was playing drums with Dana French, like 15 years ago that we saw once?"
Wow. Yeah, right.
And so we went up and started talking to Billy, and he asked if he could come and jam with us when we went up and did our spot. And it sounded pretty darn good. So, we called him up and said, "Look, we're, this is what's happened. This is where we are." And then that's it.
Right. Who was playing drums at the time? You said you saw someone playing drums.
That was me.
You were playing drums.
Yeah.
So you played.
Yes.
Played drums and harmonica.
Right. Okay.
At the same time for quite a while.
At the same time.
Yes.
Wow.
And had a special harness that I had rigged up to blow harp. The last year and a half, the drum set started to get real heavy.
Right. Now, what was the year that you all got together with the Billy King Band?
Would it be about 2019, maybe? I'm trying to think.
I couldn't remember if it was 2018 to 2019. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I would sit in with Billy every now and then. I met Billy about 2015, 2016 when I went down to Cousins.
Right,
Somebody
right.
dragged my butt down to Cousins and says, you ought to come to this jam because you'll like this guy. You'll relate to him, which I immediately did. And we hit it off real well. So every now and then, they were a three-piece at that time.
Right.
And every now and then, if he you know, like, if he would play, if he was going to do an opening set at Legends, say,
Right.
they would want a fourth player. They'd want another guitar player. So I would play with them.
Right. Now, was my buddy Ron Spin Daddy Regnus the bass player at that
Yes.
particular time?
He definitely was.
Right.
Ron Spindetti Regnus is somebody. John Clark, our bass player, has known him since maybe grade school, high school. They went to school together.
Right.
And when I went to Cousins that first time and I saw that Ron was in the band, I just started smiling and I just said, "Hey, John, you got to come to this jam with us." And he goes walking. He goes, "It's Ron Regnus." I go, "Yes, it is."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to that's why I asked you to kind of tell the story about how it all formed and where it came from, because I knew we had a connection because I played together with Ron for several years.
Yes, you did.
And the truth of it is, I was a fan of Ron's when I was a teenager in high school. He'd been playing in bands for so many years, and I knew who he was, and I'd see him on occasion from place to place. And then one day he comes walking into the Uptown Tap there in Plainfield
Yeah.
to join the jam. I wasn't in the house band at the time, and Ron comes walking in. I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ron! That's the guy everybody knows as Spin Daddy."
Yeah.
He's walking in here to play in the jam, and then about 3 weeks later, you guys all came in with Billy, and that's the first time that I met Billy. So we actually kind of share a bloodline, so to speak. So.
Yeah, Ron, another sad case because he passed away too a couple of years ago. But
Right.
he became a close friend even when we weren't playing together. So
Right.
I always thought it was interesting that he went right before Billy did.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time we were recording all of our gigs, and I still have a last show with Ron on bass.
yeah,
It's not mixed. I just have the tracks sitting there. And I remember that was one of the last things I would talk with Billy about. And he had his mind on other things, understandably.
Yeah.
So that's been on the shelf for a while. Yeah, kind of funny. This is getting brought up now. This is kind of giving me an impetus to look back at that, maybe. So
Yeah. Right.
that guy had a laugh, a real, real good laugh.
yeah. It was funny because one day we're playing and he's wrapping up his mic cord, and he says to me, "You know who made this mic cord for me?" And he mentioned some guy that we knew in high school that I haven't thought about in 50 years.
Right.
And he still has the mic cord from that.
And I know what mic cord you're talking about because it was faded and it looked brown.
Yeah,
And he goes,
it was
"Yeah, but when I
brown."
first got it, it was black." Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's definitely a good mic cord.
Oh yeah. No kidding. So you guys play your style of music. You play a very traditional, what I consider to be a traditional Chicago style blues. Is that something that you've always been into and the direction that you wanted to go into, or has it just happened by circumstance?
Well, for me, I mean, my favorite players have always been the players that I consider the real Chicago sound, which I believe are the second tier players that came to Chicago, because Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and all those guys, and I love their music, and and I've seen them all play. But they came from the fields and they adapted their field music to electronics and into the clubs. Guys like, Buddy Guy and Otis Rush and Magic Sam and Eddie Clearwater and Eddie Campbell, all those guys, Luther Allison, took that basis and, basically, they were the ones that made that evolve into what I consider the Chicago sound.
Yeah, you know what? I've never heard anybody put it that way before, but I think that's 100% correct. I'd have to agree with you on that one. It's people like Buddy Guy.
Yeah.
One of my idols is really like a grandchild of Muddy Waters and
Right.
Sun House and all those other guys that you named. Well, that's interesting. And I've always loved your guitar tone. Fantastic guitar tone.
once again because it's those guys.
Yep.
You know, I'm a big Magic Sam fan. Big Magic fans, and I just love that sound. And I love the sound of the early recordings too, even before them. I love the sound of the early recordings that are nice with a lot of space and everything's clean and there's some echo. So I just play with reverb. I don't use anything. I try to stay as clean as I can.
Right.
Because that's what I remember as a kid. It was even what I remember as a kid for rock bands. I mean, because I grew up, the first rock stuff I heard, was the first rock stuff because I'm old.
Yeah, that old plate reverb kind of a sound is what you remember. Yeah. Or the natural room reverb kind of sound that people try to emulate.
Yeah.
Vic is a guitar into amp kind of guy. He's got this little 5-watt Carbon amp. It's the loudest 5-watt amp you've ever heard. But he cranks you just dime the thing and it's the tone that you want. There's no pedals or anything. It's that perfect tone. Like you said, he just uses a reverb and it sounds like a classic blues recording. It really does.
Yeah, and that's the sound we're going for. At least that's the sound I'm going for.
Right.
Oh, you got to think back, back in the day when they were coming up, they didn't have pedals.
No, they didn't.
Just plugged in and played.
Right.
And what's really...
And that thing weighs a lot less than your Fender Twin.
Yes, it does. And the thing that's interesting with people don't, that sound, I think, and I might be wrong, but I think that the sound and the tone evolved out of necessity because these guys were not rich. And all of a sudden they're playing in these clubs and they need to amplify their guitars and they're buying these amplifiers. They're not buying these big state-of-the-art amplifiers and they had to turn them way up.
Right.
And they're getting that nice, smooth, creamy tube overdrive. And I believe that was that, and then they just built their sound on that. And I believe it was just out of necessity, quite frankly.
Oh, absolutely. And when that sound first came around, nobody liked it. Record producers, we're like, turn that down. Why are you turning your amp up so loud? It's breaking up. And now it's like, that's the tone that everybody's going for now.
Well, it's an interesting thing, the small amps, people don't realize that, I remember back in the day and going and seeing, all the rock bands, I went and saw, when I went and saw the Allman Brothers, for instance, and there's like stacks of, Marshalls all over the place and they're loud as hell. And these guys were in the studio and I believe, the same thing with Eric Clapton too. It was a small, like maybe a small Fender Princeton amp that they put in a room by itself, and it was a small amp, and they would just crank it, and that's how they got their tone. Right. They weren't using Marshalls and stuff when they were recording.
Right.
They were using small tube amps.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the way people do it nowadays.
Yeah.
As well. So Sunday, Billy.
Yes, sir.
You decided not to play.
No. Well.
See, that's how I should have known you were a drummer because it wasn't quite right. So I'm just going to sit this one out for me.
Well, no, basically, I didn't want to take up a lot of time. It wasn't that big of a thing. It was a jam.
Right,
I just got through playing that night. So I figured I love simplicity. Yeah. So I just...
Yeah, he's the hallmark of simplicity. Just listen to him talk.
So tell us about yourself. Where'd you come up? What are your roots, I guess?
See if I make this quick. Grew up in Jackson, Michigan. This guy turned me on to a Johnny Winter album. Had Shaky Horton playing on it. My sister's still pissed off at me. I traded a Beatles album to this guy to get this album.
I think that was a fair trade.
My grandfather and my Uncle Joe worked at the New York Central Roundhouse in Jackson. So I started hopping trains down to Chicago to find Shaky Horton. I was lucky enough to run into Johnny Young, first post-war mandolin player, at a gyro shop. He asked me if I wanted to go to rehearsal with him. I went to rehearsal, and there was Johnny Young, Sam Lay, James Cotton, and Jimmy Rogers, and Bob Reedy.
What? Really?
Blam.
Wow.
Ask him some of the people he's played with.
Oh, wow.
He's playing with us. That's what's
funny.
It
was quite the education from then on.
Right.
I roadied for a while and then started to get up and play. And they were very gracious at what they would show me.
So you started off, you met these guys, you go to rehearsal, you start off as their roadie. And the entire time you're their roadie, they're saying, hey, Billy, look at this, or whatever, right? And then you start playing every once in a while.
Yes.
It was literally like an apprenticeship program.
Well, I rolled into Columbia College for percussion.
Okay.
So I had some drumming. I was thinking, blues drumming, not. And when I first was introduced to a double hand shuffle, my fingers swelled up like sausages. And Richard Robinson, who was playing drums, used his floor tom, put a napkin on it, his cup of coffee, and his ashtray. Never used his floor tom.
Right.
But would do a double hand shuffle so fast, it was amazing. And he'd never break a sweat. It's like he had no bones. He just
Wow.
So it was, Sam Lay actually taught me about accents and different variations. So it was quite an education. But harp players, if I was playing drums, it was either James Cotton, Shaky Horton, Kerry Bell, or Paul Butterfield blowing harp. So.
I mean, did you tour with these guys? Did you just play around Chicago? Yeah.
Went on the road. I love telling this one. With Johnny Young, we're in the Bob Reedy Blues Band. We're somewhere's out in Oklahoma. And for the longest time, and I always researched harmonica players, just dive in, who is this? Any style. And I always heard them talk about the buzzard. And the buzzard did this. And the buzzard. Man, I went on for about 6 months. Who in the hell is the buzzard? So I was awake and Johnny woke up. I said, Johnny, who's the buzzard? Oh, that's Sonny Boy Williamson. He said he put that pint in his back pocket and he had that bend over look and you get into that mic and you'd look at him from downstage. He looked like a buzzard sitting on a branch.
Wow. See, that's why we do this. Man, great stories like that. That's fantastic. Wow. So after you met these guys, I mean, what was like the next step? How old were you when that happened?
I think 16.
Oh, so not that long ago.
Oh, wow.
God love you. About then. And then, I got into rock and roll for a while and then went on the road with various bands here and there. I did a 6-month stint at Circus in a B room. The room from hell. In the Blues Brothers, when they go and they see those guys, they try to get them out and they're playing that lounge.
Yeah, right. Wow.
That was bad. Had to wear tuxedos all day long. Anytime you left the room, I'm glad they tore the place down.
Wow.
And I had that's when disco came in. So It was hard getting work.
So you obviously didn't go the disco route. You weren't hanging out with the Bee Gees or anything at that time?
No. I didn't go that route. Actually, I got that. It was bad because all these musicians were getting off the road going home. So all of a sudden, you'd go home, see if you could find some kind of work, and there's all these other players. So it was a show band, and I just left the Bob Reedy Blues Band. So I was used to a real hardcore type of venue like that. Got out there and was playing tie yellow ribbon around the old Primarian.
Wow. Okay. So you've done blues, you've done rock and roll, maybe a little R&B, stuff like that.
Anything that paid.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, excellent. Yeah. Excellent. And, last but not least, we're getting everybody's storied here. Let's hear where you came from there, George.
Well, I don't know. Mine, I don't think it's as interesting, but we'll see. It kind of started actually playing with Vic's son, Vince. And we had played together, growing up together for forever, basically. So Vic has seen me grown into the drummer that I've grown into since I started. At the time when we started playing with Billy King, we had already been in a band before that. And so things just kind of rolled in and they're still rolling.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I can tell, you're about 2-3 years younger than these guys. So yeah, they probably picked you up.
He's my oldest son, Vinny's best friend. So I've known him since he was 6.
Okay. So like 4 or 5 years now then.
Yeah, about 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
And I'm just wondering when Billy started when he was 16, if he had hair back then, because I don't know.
Oh, me?
So what you're saying is ever since you've known him, he hasn't had hair.
No.
I haven't had hair as long as I've known me.
Oh, no, you got to say that again in the microphone.
Well, yeah, I haven't had hair as long as I've known me.
Okay.
But that's hair on my head.
Okay.
I got other places that are amazing.
I knew I shouldn't have brought him. I knew I shouldn't.
No, I was at the gym.
You don't like it because I make them trim the hairs when we get home.
Wait, this is going a direction right now that we didn't anticipate. No, there's a guy in my gym that's got my guy in my gym has a full hair head on his ass.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. So let's get back to George over here. So
This part of the podcast is brought to you by Hairline Creation.
Where, who were your influences? Where did you grow up from? I guess.
Well, grew up in the Aurora area, but yeah, influences I got a lot that are just all over for various reasons. Definitely grew up listening and starting playing drums. Getting into metal, thrash metal specifically, definitely was a Metallica fan.
That's what I was waiting for because I knew it. I could tell by your drum style. I wanted to hear him say
playing. It's there. It's there.
I wanted to hear it from his mouth. Yeah. You hear people say I always have one foot in the blues. He's always got one foot in metal. When he's playing with you guys, I hear the Lars Ulrich. I do.
It can't be untaken away. It's where I started and bloomed from. But the teacher that I had who was very good, I took lessons for like 8 years and by this guy that was, I forget which college he taught at, but yeah, real good jazz musician. That's where the jazz part of my playing came from. I didn't listen to that off the top of my head, but he introduced me to a lot of stuff. My dad, who's a keyboardist, introduced me to a lot of stuff, more in the fusion and progressive type of 80s stuff. My mom was into Motown type of stuff. Yeah, every person I knew that was part of my life had a different influence on me musically, at least when it comes to genres. So, yeah, they've all just kind of homogenized in this weird, this is my style and this is how I play. It takes a little bit of everything. Started it with metal, definitely, but now I don't know what I would stamp, but what type of name I would stamp onto it.
Well, what's interesting, if I may interject.
Of course you may.
Thank you. What's interesting is the way the band is structured, quite frankly, and is actually the heavier sound that he has actually kind of lends a little credence to what we do because the band's based around the bass and the drums being pretty solid.
Right.
My baby's a country girl. Eat pork chops all day long.
That's pretty much the foundation of the band, and Billy and I just get to flit around and do whatever the hell we want. So
That's why
kind
I
of
like this group.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to work, just flutter around.
That's
At my age, it's great. You call me up, you want to flutter around? I'll be there.
right. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
I could see you with butterfly wings on, and
Yeah.
I am graceful.
I could tell.
I can see him being accompanied by guys in white coats myself, but
So where do you guys play regularly?
regularly we've been doing, and this is how I met Billy. Billy King had a jam at Cousins for years, and when we joined the band, we continued that jam. And when Billy passed away, we continued it, and we still call it, if you come on Sunday, it's the Billy King Blues Jam. We still call it the Billy King Blues Jam, hosted by the Fabulous Kings.
That's great. Yeah.
And there's a story behind the name of the band too.
Story of the joke.
It's actually a story.
All right.
Well, Billy when Ron was playing with Billy, right?
Right.
And when they would talk with each other on the phone, when Billy would call Ron, his ID would come up, the Fabulous King, right? So when Billy told me that, so when Billy right before he passed away, he says I want you to do me a favor. I want you to name the band the Fabulous Kings. And I thought, yeah, I mean, because it's kind of a tribute to both of them, and
Right.
and they're both guys that are really good musicians, and Billy especially has made I mean, he was a kindred spirit. When I first found him, I mean, just the way he was playing and just his sense of humor and everything about him.
Right. Right.
So that's why the name is in commemoration of Billy King and Ron Regnes.
I never knew that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I
Yeah.
never knew that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, Ron was huge influence on me.
And a great guy.
Yeah.
I only saw him get mad once, and it was some drunk at it was an open mic that we were doing in Blue Island. I was with Ron. I think it was just Ron and I.
Right.
And this guy was just being a jerk, and all of a sudden Ron literally kicked him out, and Ron, who was so gentle,
Right.
I was like, whoa, where did this come from?
I just figured he wasn't around you enough.
Yeah.
If he got around me longer, he would have been. Yeah.
But thank God he wasn't a violent, angry person, because he was a big dude.
He was imposing.
Just looking at him, he was intimidating enough.
A statue.
But we called him in Cadillac Groove. We called him the human Prozac.
Yeah.
Because that was him, and it started off one day. I showed up for a gig, and I just had a horrible day at my day job, right? And I didn't have a chance to go home. I think it was actually one of these times where I flew in from someplace else. I landed, jumped in my car at Midway Airport, and drove right to a gig. And I knew it was going to happen. I had my whole car packed in the whole bit. I just went right to the gig, and I walked through the door, and I just looked like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And Ron walked over to me, and he puts his hands on my shoulders like this, and he looks at me, and in that gentle voice that he has, and he just said, it's going to be okay. and he was right. And it's going to be okay. And then every show after that, until the day he left us.
Yeah.
And in fact, the last show that we played together was kind of like a get together at our drummer's house, Tom Dixon. Mm-hmm. And it was during COVID, and we played in his driveway. And it was the last time I had seen him, and he, I walked up to him. I was feeling perfectly fine. There was no reason for him to say it, but he just got used to it at the beginning of every show. Mike, it's going to be okay. and he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah. And Ron was a pretty nice guy.
yeah. So what's next for you guys? What are you doing? Are you just going to keep playing some jams? You guys got some dates coming up? What are you guys doing?
We don't, here's the reality of this band. I think we're a pretty damn good band. Boy, do we suck at promotion.
Well, you agreed to a podcast. Hello.
Well, yeah.
This is all about.
Well, we do that the open jam every Sunday at Cousins from 4 to 8 in Tinley Park, and we've in the summer from June through September. We do an open jam on the river at the Aurora Athletic Club in Aurora.
Oh wow!
And that's a fun jam. That's a really fun jam because it's gorgeous. There's a pavilion there. It's on the river.
It's outside.
It's outside.
Oh wow!
That's why it's only the summer, because the place is too small to really have music inside the club itself.
Right.
So we've been doing it, and we've done it for the last 2 years, and it's starting to pick up some good momentum.
For 2 years, you've done that. Yeah, well, you guys do suck at promotion, because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We're lying.
and you guys have come to the jam at the studio a few times. So it's 4 to 8 at Cousins in Tinley Park. And then in the warmer months, it's
6 to 9 at the Aurora Athletic Club. Yeah, and the studio. If we get out at 8 like we're supposed to, that's when we hit the studio. You notice
Right.
it's not very often.
It's not very often. Yeah. So you guys are kind of like we are. You stay until the last person gets to play.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are like the only two places you've been playing, or is there any other?
Well, we've picked up. We've played at the studio, and it's this band. We've played at. God, what is the name of that place
Fish
out there?
Fry?
Yeah, the Catfish Days out there, and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Wilmington, right?
Wilmington, yeah. We've played there, and when the three of us were with Billy, we played Legends 4 or 5 times. We just never really, we played at Johnny Blitz in Westmont.
Right. Yeah.
Max on Slades.
Max on Slade, yeah, before when it was still existing.
Right. Well, you guys have a millennial in the band that tend to be a little more tech savvy than us older guys.
Yeah, he is more tech savvy.
Yeah. It's just one thing on the list. Hey, record. Hey, make a site. Hey,
Yeah.
do this. And
We do have a CD. We did just finish a CD.
Oh, you did. Excellent.
Yeah,
Did you bring one in?
that's one in my pocket.
Oh, do you really? Well,
Yeah.
good. Get that thing loaded on Spotify and stuff so we
Yeah.
can so we can all hear it.
Yeah, and it's we did it because George and his dad used to have a recording studio
Nice.
in the basement of their house, and his folks moved, but George has still got all the recording equipment, so we
Okay.
did it at his house.
it was all mine. I did buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so is it cover songs? Is it original songs?
Both.
A little of both.
Yeah,
What's the title of it?
there is no title.
No.
We just finished it, and we were going to use it for promotion. I did give one to Laura on Sunday.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
So-
Well, it's the Fabulous Kings.
The
Figured we get a picture of Chippendale dancers on the front.
Yeah. Billy says, when we put this thing out, we need to have a picture of us on the front. I said, are you crazy? If we're using this for promotion. I said, we're going to scare these people away. So then he decided to Chippendale. I go, that would be good. We put the Chippendale dancers on the front. They hire us, and then we show up.
Just tell them it's an old picture.
Yeah.
That's right.
So speaking of social media, since the two of you have no idea, George, where can people find you on
Happy in
social
my
media?
sound world.
Where can they find you on social media?
They really can't.
You can't?
Not yet.
Well, I know
Not yet.
you have a Facebook page.
We have a Facebook page.
Okay.
That's about it.
That's about it.
And we just use that to, just to promote where we're going to be at,
Which is very infrequent.
which is very infrequent because the guy that's supposed to be going out to and talking to club owners, and I don't want to mention my name, hasn't really done that as well as he should.
Right.
So, but that's going to change.
Well, when you do get gigs, put it on your Facebook page. We've got the Facebook page for the podcast that's
Okay.
there for people to just put their shows out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we have there's the main podcast page, and we have a Facebook group page. It's a friends of the podcast, and you can post stuff on there all the time.
Okay.
A lot of bands do.
Yeah. I mean, it was the only reason we did the CD was for promotion, and,
Right.
just to have, so that when I walk into a club, a lot of the club owners know me because I walk into the club, and a lot of clubs, and when people I know are playing, and I end up doing 3 or 4 songs. So,
right.
Yeah, that's part of my life.
Yeah.
I owned a bar for 6 years in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
That explains a lot. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now I get it.
You can only talk to so many musicians in a day.
I agree.
Yep.
Yep.
All righty, guys. Well, I want to thank you for coming out here on this, not really a chilly night. It's not a bad
No,
night.
It was 54 degrees, it said on my car. as I was
Yeah.
cruising into town.
Yeah, not too bad. But thanks for coming out. We appreciate it.
Well, thank
And
you.
We hope to get out and see you guys real soon. I'm going to probably stop up at Cousins. That's
Yeah.
not too far from my place. So
They have excellent food.
Don't throw anything at us.
I don't come armed.
Okay.
That's not a bad idea. I could probably swing out there before I do the studio on
Yeah.
Sunday. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. We, our jam, it's kind of like we're real laid back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to jams where it's like, get your guitar out and you got 3 minutes to get ready. And it's like, Jesus Christ. I think it's like,
Yeah. Now I'm all nervous. I can't play.
if I wanted this, I would have joined the army.
All righty, guys. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yes.
you too. And everybody else out there listening, 2 weeks from now.
Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, about to slip down. Working in a coal mine, going down, down, down. Working in a coal mine, about to slip down. 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I got to tell you, Mike, they were just fabulous.
And entertaining beyond their music.
They are very funny, very funny, and some very talented guys.
Yeah, I had no idea. You know, I met Billy for the first time maybe just a couple of months ago, and he came in playing harp at a jam, and didn't know he was a drummer. But God, the people that he's played with,
Like you said, his pedigree, holy cow.
yeah, wow, amazing.
That was crazy. So, what you guys got going on? Cadillac Groove, got anything happening?
Actually, by the time this program actually airs, the Saturday of Thanksgiving, we're going to be playing over at the Roundhouse.
Oh, okay.
The Two Brothers Roundhouse. We're looking forward to that show. It's always a good time to be playing there.
Sounds good. So this has been great another week. Make sure you guys check out the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois. Visit them at roadtorock.org and sign up to be a charter member. You get all kind of cool benefits and stuff. And that's where our studio is. You can come here and see us record. Not that I want anybody watching me, but, not one of them kind of guys. Alrighty, until next week. We'll see you then.
Take care.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast is edited by Paul Martin. Theme song courtesy of M&R Rush. The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music heard on the show. The music is used to promote the guests that are featured.
Rock and roll, Chicago.